Hello, my name is Jeanette Cobian-Iñiquez, and I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. My research focuses on wildfire and wildland-urban interface fire behavior, where my specific aims are to better understand how fires spread, how fires ignite, and how do fires affect people and the environment. My research group also increasingly engages with wildfire communications and education, and on engaging wildfire researchers and forest managers from other places in the world on international collaborations. A lot of folks ask, what does an engineer do in fire behavior or in wildfire behavior? And I think historically, especially in the United States, engineers have been very actively engaged in studying how fires behave. And that's because, especially mechanical engineers, we study dynamical systems, how systems change, be it fluids, be it heat, how heat changes. So part of the work that we do as engineers in the lab is we study the flame. How does the flame generate heat? How does the flame move? How does the environment, so wind, affect its behavior? One of the most prevalent type of modeling we do in the lab is experimental modeling, so dealing with actual fires and burning at the lab. There's a lot of opportunities for interdisciplinary collaborations with very established programs. There's folks working on air quality and emissions from wildfire that are very well established, and that allows us to create those bridges between fire behavior and air quality. There's also folks looking at public health impacts, and so being able to bridge the gap there between what we do in the lab and how fires affect people is something very important for my work, so being able to engage in these collaborations is absolutely essential.
Hola, I'm Armando Parra. I use they, he pronouns, and I'm an assistant professor in developmental psychology. And I'm also the director of the Arcoiris Research Collective that's housed at the Center for Mind and Brain. The work we conduct at the Arcoiris Research Collective is multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary, bridging neuroscience, developmental psychology, human ecology, nursing, and social work to understand the impacts of multiple forces of oppression and its implication for health disparities among multiply marginalized adolescents and emerging adults. In the US, I focus on Latinx and Black adolescents and emerging adults. And here I study how racism and heterosexism both combine, intertwine to oppress these individuals at their intersections of these marginalized identities. Specifically, I look at how these forms of stress get under the skin and influence immunological and adrenocortical functioning, and I see how those functions are associated with mental health disparities. I'm a queer person of color who identifies as non-binary or genderqueer. And my position in society has allowed me to be able to be part of these amazing, vibrant communities. And with this position, I am very clear that I'm a scientist coming to try to understand problems that the community will themselves identify, and that I would hope that they invite me or allow me to be part of a solution along with them. It takes years of dedication in building these partnerships with all of these communities here in the US and internationally, to only then be able to ask if they would be willing to participate in some of this work. Because it is hard work, it is demanding of their time, it's asking them to recollect narratives that perhaps cause them pain, it's asking people to go home and collect saliva in vials over the course of multiple days, when they wake up, a few minutes after waking, before they go to bed, and making sure that they store all these samples in their home freezers before they're collected. The science we do is work that we ask our community members to do. And together, we're able to really build a foundation of science, of knowledge, that will hopefully have implications for bettering their lives. I strongly believe that science is a powerful tool for bridging borders and disciplines, and that science can allow us to combat oppression. I do this work because I love the communities that I work with and the points that I'm a part of. Y si se puede.
Hello, My name is Antonio Serapio-Palacios. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Microbiology and Molecular Genetics. I'm a microbiologist, and my research focuses on understanding bacterial pathogens, which are these that cause disease, and how they can overcome our defenses. These bacteria have evolved sophisticated mechanisms to overcome and evade our host responses in order to infect, replicate, and disseminate. One of the biggest challenges that we are facing right now is the increasing number of multi-drug resistant pathogens. As these bacteria acquire new resistance, it is critical that we develop new strategies to treat the harmful pathogens. My lab will study how bacterial pathogens that colonize the gut, which we know as enteropathogens, they develop these strategies to overcome the host. One clear example of this is E. coli, which is a group of bacteria that colonize the intestine, and they can create mild to severe symptoms. For example, they can cause stomach pain, diarrhea, and even kidney failure. I aim to understand how these pathogens can manipulate and evade the immune response in order to cause disease. By understanding how these bacterial pathogens interact with the intestinal epithelium, the gut microbiota, and the immune system, we aim to develop new strategies that can treat and prevent these infections. As a campus faculty scholar, I'm honored and excited to promote diversity and inclusion in research. As a first-generation high school and college student myself, I know the challenges students from underrepresented backgrounds faces to fulfill their dreams and aspirations. And I want to be there for them. I love the journey.
I am Maxine Umeh Garcia, and I am an assistant professor in the Department of Internal Medicine, Division of Hematology, Oncology, and my research really focuses on cancer biology, actually really thinking about metastases, which is when the cancer actually moves from the first site to the second site, and so we are particularly interested in trying to understand how we can understand that process deeper in order to essentially inhibit it or find therapeutic targets to increase the lifespan of patients with cancer. I got really interested in triple-negative breast cancer, which is a type of breast cancer that is very aggressive. It likes to actually metastasize quite a bit, and there is an increased incidence in African American women, so that's what really drew me to studying this cancer type. And so the way that we do that is we think about these sort of genes or pathways, like what is actually controlling that cancer cell to want to not stay in its primary spot or place. What is calling that cancer cell to either go to a liver or a lung or the bone or the brain, which is actually the sort of other part of my research that I'm interested in, because triple-negative breast cancer, unfortunately, for many breast cancer patients, does actually travel and metastasize to the brain, which is very detrimental for patients' obviously lifespan. And so we're really interested in thinking about, can we study sort of the intricacies of this cancer cell? Who are its neighbors? Who is it talking to? What genes or pathways are turned on or turned off that would sort of prompt that cancer cell to actually move to a different site? And then once it gets there, it has essentially all new neighbors. So once it gets to this new sort of neighborhood, who is it again talking to? Who is it linking up with? And how we can sort of interrupt those things to potentially treat patients better or slow down the growth of that cancer in the new spot. And I think honestly, my favorite thing about Davis is truly the diversity of the health system. So one of the things that I am intimately, I say intimately a lot, but I am very much sort of aware of is how do we study cancer biology, not only as a system, all of the cells, everything going on, but across diverse populations. I think this has been a problem before in the field where we don't have a good representation of all the populations that get cancer. And so I think being here at Davis, the Cancer Center's catchment area is so diverse, and we now get access to all of those samples to really begin to not only ask important molecular biology questions, but really to ask, does that apply across the board? So when we're coming up with these therapeutics and these treatments, is it gonna work as well in a African American woman versus a Hispanic woman? And we want that to be true. So the only way to get there is by studying that. And so I feel like Davis gives us that opportunity, as well as because our community in the health system is so diverse, we get this opportunity to engage and interface with patients in the community, which is honestly, I feel like, one of my favorite things, but being a cancer biologist and being able to go into the community and talk to women with breast cancer that have no idea about what research we're actually doing in the lab, how that relates to clinical trials and their future treatments. And so I really look at Davis as an opportunity to say this is where we can interface not just with patients in the community, but most importantly with diverse patients in a diverse community, which I think ultimately will take the impact of our research much, much further.